Hello and good evening, everybody. This is another episode of Palm Tree Sports, hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols. It's brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, happy Saturday. Now, I apologize for sounding a little monotone. I don't have a lot again for this show today, unfortunately. But the fortunate part is there are a couple of things to get, a couple of good things to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that first things first. I do apologize in advance if you guys hear any noise in the background. My son is running around right now, and he's off the sugar right now. So you guys just bear with me, all right? But with that being said, let's jump right on into it, guys. It's a Saturday, but we're not really going to talk much college football as to the fact that, as you guys know, the national championship has been identified. It will be Georgia versus TCU for it all. The games were both good games. I think there was a record amount of points scored between the teams that played last Saturday. So that's really, really big for the state of college football. I do feel bad for the game, however. It's not that I'm looking down on TCU. I have nothing against the Horned Frogs. I actually respect that team quite a lot when it comes to college football and what they were able to do and the battles that they had with Boise State back in the day. However, they're going against Georgia. Guys, Georgia is nasty, and they are loaded. All right, they are very well coached. They are very well disciplined. I hate to say it like this, they're probably going to have the refs on their side. They're the powerhouse of college football right now. We could all see it coming. And I regret to inform the rest of the league that unless Bama, LSU, or Florida have much to say about it, we're just going to see more of this. Tennessee is a good team, although I don't think Tennessee is built necessarily to keep up, as they are going to lose some guys. They lost some guys to the portal, and they're going to lose probably a bunch of guys to the draft, in all honesty, the way that they've been performing and putting out talent recently. So that's just some of the things to take into consideration with college football. We'll touch on that a little bit more. We're going to get into the NFL because we actually have quite a few things still going on there. Albeit the final season, the three teams in Florida can still all make the playoffs again. Miami is a little up in the air, so we'll have to see, what will happen. I would kind of, agree with the statement that after the game, after they can't beat the Jets, that they shouldn't make the playoffs. I definitely agree with that because the Jets aren't specifically, playing very well. And as far as I'm concerned, Miami has the best roster. okay, in the AFC East, and they're just not playing like it. And I get it, Buffalo and Allen and all those guys and whatnot, but they've got a lot of injuries, and that's what I mean to say by that the Miami has the best roster. They have the best roster of active players that can play. Miami's missing Von Miller, who's out for the year. They're missing the young man who went down with the injury. I'm trying to remember what his name is, but the young man who went down with the injury, and it was and we're gonna talk about that also as well, because guys, I've played football, so obviously that's a big number. But first, I want to wrap up what I'm saying about the East. So with all those injuries that Buffalo has had, if you look at the games with the roster that they've had, they've been in a lot of close games. All right, especially those division games. Is what I mean to say is Miami beat them in the first division game. Okay, so Miami has the tools. They have the roster. They have probably the best receiving core in football, and I'm saying that as a Bucs fan. I'm saying that because Jalen Waddle is really that fast. Him and Tyreek Hill are just nuts. Like, oh my God, it's absolutely nuts what those two guys put on the mile per hour radar when they're tracking them, right? I've seen a couple of those episodes of NFL Sports Science and whatnot, and I tell you what, man, those guys are fast, and they're really, really fast. So with that being said, Miami, Buffalo, two of the classes of the AFC. Unfortunately, they're both dealing with a lot of injuries. Miami more so with the quarterback issue, but again, if they can protect their quarterback, the sky's the limit for them. Versus Buffalo, who has had a lot of injuries on the defensive side, which is what will turn the game into a shootout. But obviously, Miami still has their defensive players, and they have a really good defense at that. So that's just one of the things. But yeah, Von Miller being out for the Bills is actually really huge. It's going to be hard for them to supplement that other side, because their defense is built in a way where basically Von Miller's on an island. He's going to go against whatever, edge they have on the right side of the field, and he's going to win most of the time. He's going to get to the quarterback. He's going to create hassles. He's going to create hurries and things like that. So, but that's still what remains to be seen for Miami. And then again, we're going to have somebody who's covering Miami as well, handling that business coming up. So they'll be able to go more in detail about that. I do want to go further in detail, though, with the Buccaneers. All right, and there's a lot, to be done with the Buccaneers. And you make a good point there, real quick, before I jump back to the Buccaneers. Has Bradley Chubb done anything ever since arriving to the Dolphins? The answer to that question is going to be a resounding no, because what you would expect from somebody who had the type of output that Chubb had both in college and in his original season is going to be hard to match. When what happens is in college, and I myself have lend credence to this. I watch a lot of college football, and I'm one of those guys where I watch a ton of college football, and I put stamps on guys that I'm gonna watch. Like guys, for instance, I'll give you an example. For those who are watching the Chiefs game right now, the Chiefs have an offensive weapon called Kadarius Toney, and I mentioned it before. He went to Florida. When he was coming out of the draft, I mentioned the story last week. My dad asked me, he said, "What do you think he'll go?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure where he's gonna land, but I know where he needs to go." My first choice for him would be Kansas City. My second choice would be Miami. But more so Kansas City, because he's in an offense where Andy Reid literally is a wizard at creating space. People want to know, why is he so good at coaching? It's because he can create space. When you have somebody on the other side of the ball like Bradley Chubb, who has the ability to take space away, that could be your biggest weakness. But unfortunately, Chubb hasn't done much. He hasn't done much in Miami at all, which is probably how he got there in the first place following his injury. So, there are a lot of things to take into consideration when it comes to that position and what you're able to do, specifically who you're playing against, right? Because somebody like Bradley Chubb may not look that good against somebody like a Patrick Mahomes, right? Or against a Lamar Jackson. These young guys who know how to step up in the pocket, and then if push comes to shove, they can get mobile with their feet. So these are all different things that really come into play, especially when it comes down to talking defense. And that's the big difference between Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, is that Von, pretty much regardless of who your guy is, can adjust his game because of his smaller frame and the speed that he has. Him and Shaq Barrett, ironically speaking, are very similar in that aspect, and they were both lost for the season. So it goes to show you that this playoff run was meant to be offensive heavy. And if you're looking out in the AFC right now, all those teams play offense, but they all don't play defense. So that's just something to take in consideration. I personally think that if it comes down to an NFC team with a top 5, top 10 defense in the league, that the NFC team will take it in the Super Bowl. If not, then obviously I'm going to give it to the AFC team, because they got a lot of firepower in the AFC. There's no doubt about that. Now, back to the Buccaneers. There's a couple of things to talk about here. First things first. Ever since last week, and the Bucs played Carolina, I don't want to hear that Carolina was 6-9. I don't want to hear any of that. I don't care. I don't care about any of that. All these teams sit up to do one thing every Sunday, and that's play football. Okay? And Carolina won the first game. So, if I may be so bold as to quote the uncle of Takashi in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, you did it once, good. Then it should be easy. Okay? And it wasn't. Tom Brady and Mike Evans, they woke up. And when I mean woke up, I mean like they had to hit snooze on the alarm button because they blew up. Like let me put it to you like this. If Tom and Mike could play like that, specifically just those two guys, because there were other people that showed up, and we're going to talk about those guys for sure. But more specifically, let's talk about your two main stars, right? When you talk about Batman and Robin, who do you see? Well, in Tampa Bay, Batman and Robin is Tom Brady and Mike Evans. Let me explain something. Mike Evans is probably the second best receiver that Tom has ever played with. And maybe you guys are going to go crazy hearing that type of statement, but let me remind you that I watched Tom from 2001 when he started. He won that Super Bowl against the Rams. And let me tell you something. His leading receiver was Deion Branch. He had like 987 yards receiving that year. I don't even think he broke 1,000 yards receiving that year. That means Tom Brady's number one receiver in the first Super Bowl that he ever won didn't even reach 1,000 yards. He's playing with a receiver who did it 9 straight years. See, the problem is nobody wants to give Mike his flowers. I've been giving Mike his flowers since he was Texas A&M, and the person throwing him the quarterback was what's his name? God, who is that guy? He played in the NFL. He played for the Browns for a split second, and he went on. He's playing Canadian Football League. Johnny Manziel, Johnny Money Manziel, I think is what they called him. And let me tell you something. That was a guy in college, and maybe Mike Evans was overshadowed, but understand this. The Bucs knew exactly what they were getting with that guy. They know they could coach him, and they knew that he was a physical presence like no other. And let me explain something. You don't want to be on the other side of that guy blocking you. You don't want to be on the other side of getting torched by him because you'll sit there and say, oh, he's not fast. Okay, tell me why he's got 3 catches for touchdowns, and they're all over 20 yards. You talking about we came into the league, we had the least amount of plays above 20 yards. By the end of the game, all 3 of our scoring touchdowns in the air were 20 yards or more. All to Mike Evans, who was sleepy. People were calling him sleepy. You don't have him on your fantasy. You gave up on him. Whatever the case. And I get you got to do what's best for business. But guys, in the real world of football, let me explain something to you. Tom Brady, Mike Evans is a hair short of as deadly as Tom Brady to Randy Moss was. Okay? And if you think that's not the case, again, I invite you to do your research. I invite you to do your homework. Mike Evans is the first receiver in NFL history from his rookie season till now, 9 years, to have 1,000 yards receiving every game. Let me explain something. If that's not GOAT status, I don't understand what you guys consider GOAT status to be, because the only other wide receivers in NFL history, okay, to have 1,000 yards receiving, regardless of when it happened in their career, were Tim Brown, okay, and Jerry Rice. So, 2 of the top 10 wide receivers of all time. There you have it. Okay, and for those who are too young to know who Tim Brown was, I invite you to go look at the team who's playing right now, but go back in their history. Go look at what the Raiders had with Tim Brown. That man was an absolute legend for that franchise and what he was able to do, and as far as over his career was concerned, because he played a very long career. So, for those who don't know, you give Mike Evans his flowers. When it's all said and done, he will have a gold jacket. He will go down as one of the greatest receivers of all time, never do it. The proof is in the pudding, and it's in the math, and the math is right there. Tom, we already know, is the GOAT. Tom did what we thought Tom could be doing this entire time, but he was poised and he had precision where he had been lacking that earlier in the season. Okay, so those are the 2 big things for those who are wanting to understand generically what the breakdown is and why it's such a big deal for us to be talking about it right now, is because this entire season they have been what you would call, again, a sleepy duo. They have been barely connecting. Mike wasn't like he was going to get 1,000 yards. Tom was looking like maybe, Father Time was trying to creep up on him. I personally think, as somebody who has played the game of football, who understands how time slows down in those plays, and when you're practicing, when you're talking to your coaches, when you're scheming, when you're watching tape, distractions, specifically relationship issues and distractions. I don't care who you are. Your girl leaves you because you're doing the thing that you love and you see her with the next dude, regardless of how strong you are, yeah, you're going to feel something, but energy can only be converted. It can't be destroyed, right? So what do? Well, you do something to be better. You do something to do more than what you're doing, so you become everything in your power to be that person that they thought you were before they left, right? And they feel that regret. You're not getting your lick back. You're doing what's best for you. You see how that works? And when you do what's best for you, your light's going to shine. Like, other people are going to realize, oh, damn, I went away from his light. That was my mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I should have stuck it out. Now I got to pay the cost. That's correct. And that's how that goes. So Tom, Mike, when, we got to give them their flowers now, while they're here. They won a division, okay? First time in Buccaneer history that the Bucs have gone back-to-back division titles and to the playoffs 3 straight years in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so there's a first time, I think, for the back-to-back division titles, but we're going to the playoffs 3 straight years in a row, which is huge. All right, Tom will start against Atlanta. All right, last game they're playing against Atlanta, they're 6-10. I don't want to be rude, but they're dead in the water. The draft is going to help them out tremendously with all these players coming out that have a lot of experience. That's where that football team is looking to the future. Bucs, Tom, still being father time, so we're 8-8. We're looking to be 9-8 by the end of this game. Would not be surprised if this game gets out of hand by halftime, if Kyle Trask steps in and gets some starting time. I personally think this is the perfect time for him to get some serious starting time, at least the entire second half, especially if we're up comfortable and we're running the ball well, okay? As to how we beat the Falcons, that's exactly how we do it, right? We're going to have to run the ball early, establish that run wide, because we know that the Falcons like to be pass heavy, and they have threats at receiver and tight end. So with that being said, the Bucs are gonna have to run the ball, not turn over the ball, but create turnovers and be effective. Obviously, with time of possession, because we don't want. Atlanta has been a team in the past where, yes, they may be playing bad football right now, but they're a division foe. They know how we play football. They're gonna know who to attack, when to attack, and things like that. They're still a professional team, guys. There's one thing you cannot do is lay down. So we're gonna go in there. We're gonna run the ball. We're gonna set up the play action fake. Where hopefully Mike and Tom are going to get a few more touchdowns between them. Chris Godwin hopefully gets in there, gets a touchdown, he was also a superhero last week. For those who didn't know, had over 100 yards receiving. First time 2 Buccaneers receivers, I think, this year went over 100 yards receiving on both ends of the ball. So that was really good, especially with Chris, who was primarily operating outside the slot and bailing the Bucs out, especially in those situations where they needed to catch. Had a fumble, not too concerned with it. He did cover up the ball. It was a perfect punch. These things happen. So moving on from that, the division crown is a big deal, but we still want to try and win a Super Bowl. I don't know if we can win the Super Bowl. What I can tell you is this. If our defense is healthy and we don't have to play the 49ers, the Buccaneers can go. In my opinion, it's that simple. Historically, the Eagles and the Buccaneers have had their ups and downs, but it's one of those things where nowadays the games that they play are a lot closer if one team isn't blowing out the other, and usually the team that's blowing out the other is headed to a Super Bowl. You look at the last three out of the last 4 times they played each other, one of those teams went and made a deep playoff run, okay? 2 of those times it was the Buccaneers. 1 of those times it was the Eagles, okay? So these things happen. The last time the Eagles did, they won a Super Bowl over Tom. Okay, so don't think that Tom isn't eyeballing the Eagles thinking, hey, look, I'm going to get some payback on you guys, and flip that into the mold if we should play the Eagles. Also, even though this may sound weird to say, I think the Eagles are an easier team to beat than the 49ers. The 49ers have an anomaly at quarterback who seems to be Patrick Mahomes Jr., okay, and their defense is the number 1 defense in football. I'm sorry, that's the best defense in football, okay? The Buccaneers have a great defense. The Eagles have a great defense. 49ers have the best defense. So I'd rather not have to play the 49ers. If we don't have to, I see a direct line to the Super Bowl. If we get to the Super Bowl, our defense is healthy, we can win. Simple. Period. Defense is key. It's going to be key, because if Tom and Mike play well, then we can't look at them and say, hey, it's y'all, right? That's the last thing the defense can do, is look at the offense and say, hey, it's you guys. So that's something to take into consideration. The Bucs are not resting starters. They are not resting starters. I know that's the thought process, that 31 out of the 32 teams in the league would be resting their starters hadn't they just won a division the year before that. But I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys, okay? I personally am a fan of this. I wouldn't rest Tom and Mike, not till the second half, for a reason.
they just caught fire in its week 17 going into 18. They just caught fire. Anybody knows anything chemically about fire, fire needs oxygen, right? Water is a detriment. Dirt and earth is a detriment to fire. Like, it needs oxygen. You got to fan the flame. So if you're going to fan the flame, you can't afford to take 2 weeks off, right? You definitely can't afford to take a week off if the team that you're going to be playing against has a better record than you. Yeah, we beat the Cowboys, so it should be easy, but it doesn't mean it's guaranteed. So those are the important things about why the Bucs are playing, why they're starting their stars. However, there are people who have been lingering issues, injuries, I should say, and they will not be playing, which is a smart move. And a couple of those players are some big name people, so I'm going to go ahead and give you this list real quick. Carl Nassib, Donovan Smith, Carlton Davis, Vita Vea, Logan Ryan, all out, right? So they will most likely be playing in the following game when the playoffs start, of course. But right now they're resting some minor injuries. I personally also agree with this move. Rest those minor injuries. Be at 100% when it matters most, because these are injuries, right? This isn't, like, oh, he's old, right? Yeah, like, Tom's old, but that doesn't mean anything. That just means he has a great deal of experience, But the way he's playing like a top 5 quarterback right now. All right, so after that last game, I could say that. So those are the things to take consideration. As for Brady's future, we'll see what happens there. Guys, real quick, I want to go ahead and take a quick break, but when I get back, I'll wrap things up with the Jaguars, and then we'll slide right on into the NCAA because, again, we don't have a whole lot to talk about. The Bucs is going to be the biggest segment, so I wouldn't be surprised if we bounce back if I get any more information while we're doing this. But for the time being, let's go ahead and take our first break, and when we get back, we'll wrap it up with the Jaguars and the NFL bit, and we'll head on to NCAA. Thank you guys for hanging in with me here on this Saturday afternoon. My name is Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports, brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Hang tight, and we'll be right back.
Lopan, they didn't even want you. Heck, they didn't even want me. But you know what? Right about now, they have no choice. Looking for the real sports talk that's for us, the people? Look no further. The Wait a Minute Show, a prime time sports comedy cocktail that tucks you in at night. Join me and Lopan Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 2livestewsradio.com and Saturday 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the waitaminuteShow.com. Sounds like a plan to me. Ain't that right, Lopan? Indeed.
Alrighty, you guys, welcome back to Palm Tree Sports. Again, I am your host, Corey Pujols, brought to you by Sports Radio, your direct feed for all their sports thing, guys. Thank you for staying with me through that little break right there. I had a peep at the game. For those who are watching the Chiefs-Raider game at halftime, it was 21-3 Chiefs. It's now 24-6 Chiefs. Not much has changed. Guys, the Raiders have been a very big disappointment, but I told everybody this was going to happen. As soon as Davante Adams parted in Green Bay, all the thoughts of the Raiders doing well and the Packers doing well went out the window. I believe the Packers can still make the playoffs. A lot of good that'll do them. Look at the teams that they have to run into, right? You have the 49ers, you have the Minnesota Vikings, you have the Buccaneers, and you have the Eagles, who all won their divisions. Okay, guys, I'm not exactly sure who Green Bay will be excited to play out of those teams because I don't think that they can pretty much beat any of those teams because all 4 of those teams play defense. You guys see how that works? They all play defense. Minnesota might be the easiest one because they're a division rival and they play each other the most, but I'm going to be even still honest with you there. You really think that Minnesota team who has been coming back from behind and winning these close games all year long is going to all of a sudden lose, to you guys now that y'all don't have Davante Adams? Again, that was a really big deal. And vice versa, when you lose a big piece can also make a new team shift the way that they play football, which is what has happened to the Raiders, trying to incorporate this big piece and center your offense around a duo that was supposed to be much bigger than it actually truly was because they went to college together is a bad way to do things. I feel bad for both of the teams. Unfortunately, this is what happens when money gets the best of players and when camaraderie goes out of the window. So, that was just something to make a note of there, especially for those who are watching the game now. Now, over to a team in the AFC who has quite a story on their hands, who, if you guys remember, the Jaguars last offseason spent the most money in the offseason. I think they spent a record amount of money in the offseason, most by any team ever, to go acquire these players to make themselves a better team. They went from the worst record in the AFC to possibly winning their division. If they do win the division, they'll be winning it over the Titans when they play them tonight at 8:15. So for those who are looking forward to that next game, so am I. I can't wait to see what happens. I hope the Jaguars pull it out. I hope that they're able to win the division and head back to the playoffs. Again, guys, I'm a fan of football. Buccaneers are my team, but I love to see some of these stories, and I personally it would just be full circle for the Jags to bounce back, right, guys? And I agree. I think the Jags are winning this match. I said this before. Okay, I said this at the beginning of the season. If the Jaguars figure their stuff out, they're the best team in that division. Why is that? Because they have the most potential, they have the most upside, and they also have a couple of open-minded guys at the helm. Okay, so Trevor Lawrence, again, if you guys watched him in college, this guy was one of those people who seemed to be able to soak up not just the knowledge but the moment, right? So yeah, he ran into JB. I get it, but that's JB. I mean, come on. It's Joe Burrow. Like, that guy's nuts. He's such a good quarterback, and so is Trevor Lawrence. The difference was he was at LSU, and that team was loaded compared to Clemson. Sorry, guys. If y'all don't watch the SEC, y'all are missing out. LSU was loaded that year. Okay, look at all the starters in the NFL right now from that team. Okay, same thing with Clemson. Clemson has a ton of good talent out there in the pros right now, more specifically Trevor Lawrence and ETN, and that is the key to the game, which is why I brought them up. Trevor Lawrence and ETN, what they're going to want to do is very simple. They want to control the clock. They're going to run the ball, and then they're going to play action, and they're going to utilize those receivers that they have, okay? I also think that that's how they'll win the game, is play action, good defense. They have a good defense. That's something that's slept on for the Jaguars. Thinking, the Jaguars don't play. No, they got defense. They have a defense, bro. It's not the best defense in the league, but it is. I think it's a top 15 defense, if I'm not mistaken, and that's a big deal because that's where you want to be. You want to be in the early part. Usually the top 10 are the best 10 defenses, right? Then you have the back 5 on the end, which are shuffling all the time. Defenses that are splashy. I think Tampa Bay would be considered a top 15 defense right now because we've had a lot of injuries, but yet we have such talent on our team that even with injuries, the defense can still perform, right? Which is a wonderful thing. And there are other teams out there who are like that. The 49ers, okay, perfect example. And with that being said, the Jaguars are one of those teams. They have defense. They can shut the Titans down. All the Titans really have is Derrick Henry. I watched Joshua Dobbs in college. He went to Tennessee. He's a good player. Yes, he's very innovative. Yes, he by no means is like a Aaron Rodgers or a JB or a Tom Brady or any of those top quarterbacks. That even Dak Prescott, he's not quite on that level either. Again, I'm not talking down on the kid, but let's just call a spade a spade. So I got the Jaguars winning their division for the first time in a long time, which is also a big deal. And more important than that, going to the playoffs to possibly, see a Super Bowl. It's one of the few teams who's never been to a Super Bowl. Okay, for those who don't know, Jags have never been to a Super Bowl. All right, I'm not counting on it necessarily to happen this year, but this is where you build, huh? I mean, look at Tampa Bay. We had a playoff drought that lasted 13 years. Was it 13 years? 13 years. A 13-year playoff drought. Dude, we didn't make the playoffs for 13 years, guys. Like, we did not make the playoffs. So could you guys imagine the Jaguars, who haven't been to a Super Bowl yet, finally go to their first Super Bowl? I mean, it's going to go crazy. It's going to be insane. So that would be great for them. Now, with the Jags, they're in a similar boat to the Buccaneers. And very similar because I speak on the record. The Buccaneers record right now is 8-8. We win the game against the Falcons, we go 9-8. For the Jags, they are 7-9. The Titans are 8-8. So they'll have the same record when they win tonight. They'll have the same. Both teams will have the same record. So they'll both be 8-9. But obviously the Jags will go ahead and make the playoffs and by winning their division. So that part is a little bit interesting, right? Because I think the Bucs were the team that everybody thought was going to do that, right? They were going to win the division with the losing record, but no, guys, it's actually probably going to be the Jaguars. As crazy as it may seem, but they can do it, and that's what I'm proud of for them. So Yeah, Lamar Jackson, that's a 50-50 ball game, right? Like, we have to wait and see what happens there with when you have a quarterback who's injured and also dealing with those what you call front office issues, right? Who's going to sign your check, who's going to make sure you're taken care of, who's going to get you the money you deserve. Everybody in the world agrees on one thing. Since his rookie season, Lamar Jackson has done above what you need to do to get that contract. Okay, and we're talking about NBA style contract, not no NFL contract where they're trying to bind you, make it seem like you're not bringing in no money. Nah, bro, give him that contract. Why? He's Lamar freaking Jackson. I mean, listen, Joe Flacco didn't win you a Super Bowl. Your defense won you a Super Bowl. Matter of fact, every Super Bowl the Ravens has ever won was because of their defense. Okay? This guy finally creates an offense that is intoxicating. And you guys don't want to pay him? Why? And I'm just going to put ... after that why, because I'm pretty sure there's no good reason as to why you haven't paid him. I put it to you like this. There have been talk about whether Lamar will be interested in coming down to Tampa to play if he didn't get his contract for the Ravens. I don't care how anybody feels about that. I would love to see Lamar down here, especially if Tom retires or if Tom decides to go somewhere else. And that's speculation. Tom may decide to go somewhere else. People are still thinking that Tom might hook it up with Sean Payne down in Miami. People think that Tom might go back home and play for the 49ers. Who knows? But these are the things that we're faced with here in the NFL, the realizations that we have. So this offseason is going to be a wild one, just by the virtue of two quarterbacks who are both leading playoff teams that may not be in the same on that same team, the following year. So we'll have to see what happens with Lamar as well. And excuse me, you guys, my apologies. Now, with that being said, that pretty much covers everything with the Jaguars. I covered everything with the Bucs already. Big games for both teams. Big game for the Jags. Not so much a big game for the Bucs, but we're going to want to stay healthy. We're still going to want to win the game, have a winning record to close out the season, go on from there. Derek Carr and Jimmy G are two good quarterbacks that are definitely still going to be on the table, especially this offseason as well. The only problems is with those two guys is for Derek Carr, is weird because he just got Davante Adams. So it's like, are you guys going to go get Derek Carr without getting Davante Adams, or is it going to be one of those things where it's going to be some team who gets Derek Carr and Davante Adams and then that's it, right? Like that's all they can do during the offseason. Consequently, Jimmy G, who is just severely injury prone, I mean, Jesus Christ. For a quarterback like him to be as injured as he is, which I know you can't control injuries, but guys, I mean, if you guys remember Cadillac Williams back in the day, that's who he reminds me of. Because Cadillac Williams is a phenomenal running back, phenomenal talent, right? And then he gets injured, blows out one knee, then he blows out the other knee, then he blows out the other knee again. And it's like, look, dude, we're talking about your health. We're talking about you being able to walk like a regular person out here, all right? I love the game. I know you love the game. It's not worth your legs, bro. It's not. Because hear me here. You can still go out and play, a little pickup football. You can still watch. You can still be a part of football. But you lose your legs, all you can do is watch. Right? I mean, yeah, somebody throw a football, you can catch it, but you can't run a route. You can't take a handoff. You can't scramble out of the pocket. You can't do all the things that you would otherwise still be able to do, especially for fun, which is why we do it, if you're injured, if you don't have any legs. So, Jimmy needs to get healthy. He definitely needs to get healthy. Now, let's take it away from the NFL because obviously we know what the story with Damar Hamlin, I believe his name is. That story has rocked us all as football fans. I personally never seen that type of injury before take place on a football field, specifically a football field, although I've read stories. I even watched an anime, for those who don't know, an anime that actually had that type of characterization of injury input into the show. So I kind of was a little bit ahead on what the injury was before it happened, although it be as rare of an injury as it possibly could be. You're talking about a 1 million chance of this kind of thing happening. nonetheless, it's a real thing. It's a very real thing, guys. And so my prayers were up for him, and it's something that I hope we never have to see again. Although it may very well happen again, I hope it's something that we never have to see again inside the world of sports. But just a reminder of how much bigger this is, than just any one guy, than any one team, all right, in any one sport. So, prayers up to DeMar. He's a warrior. I was so happy and relieved to hear that he opened his eyes and regained consciousness, has a neurological link, and everything is established. So he is able to talk, and he was FaceTiming his teammates. It was a beautiful thing for those who did not hear. It was a beautiful thing, and I imagine that it gave his team everything the Buffalo Bills needed to go ahead and do what they need to do, especially heading into the playoffs. Now, as for the NCAA, guys, everything else after this is going to be really, really short. That's why we spend a heck of a lot of time talking about the NFL, because most of the sauce is going to be there. We're going to go ahead and run through the NCAA. Basically, as you guys know, or if you did not know, earlier today was the All-American High School game for all of the high schoolers who are going to be participating, who are going to be going into their their collegiate seasons, starting with a redshirt freshman or true freshman. They were playing all in this game. Or a lot of guys, I should say, were playing on this game, including a bunch of Gator starters and some Noles guys. So as far as the news is concerned about both of those teams, they're going to be similar and then the same, or different, I should say. The things that are similar about the Noles and the Gators, both lost a lot of players to the portal. More on the Gators than the Noles. The Noles are losing more guys probably to the draft than anything, but they're not losing a lot of guys, to be honest with you, at all. Whereas the Gators lost 25 plus. All right, the last number we saw was 25, including Whitmore, Ron Dexter, just a bunch of guys just all over the place, okay? Dexter went ahead and we got clarification on him for going the rest of his season so he could get ready for the NFL draft. Whitmore entered the transfer portal. So there's a lot of draft and transfer portal material going on for the Gators. However, we've also reached into the portal and reached out and grabbed a couple of players as well as a quarterback, an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, and we're waiting to hear back about a cornerback, a wide receiver, and a running back as well. So we'll see what happens with those guys. As the time continues to go on. Of course, the portal's still open, recruiting is still going on, and they had a recruiting decision at the All-American game. The young man chose he had offers from everywhere: Texas, Florida, Alabama, Texas A&M, Georgia. He ended up choosing Georgia, Tennessee. He chose Georgia. Good for him. He wanted to go to the college that had everything going for it. And I'll just say this for all those young guys who do that: take into consideration that when you go there can still only be 11 people on the field, all right? And this is something I saw happen in Alabama. And if you guys don't know, when Alabama's recruiting started to tank, it was about 4 or 5 years ago. And the reason why was because you had Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa on the same team. And they're both starters. They're both, like in the NFL, they're both stars. So imagine having them both on your team. It's like, who do I choose? With all due respect to Tua Tagovailoa, once he received the starting job, Jalen Hurts did the right thing. You went to the transfer portal, go somewhere else so you can put your starting skills on the degree. He went to Oklahoma, had a great season. All right? Went to Oklahoma, had a great season, got drafted by the Eagles, took that starting job, and now look where he has the Eagles, guys. And then look where Tua Tagovailoa has the Miami Dolphins at. Okay? When he's not injured, that team is a playoff team. Okay? As a result, you have a lot of these young kids who come in and say, you know what, let me go to a college who, even though they only won 6-7 games last year, I can start, right? So the pros can see me, because remember, it's not just about college. It's about what comes after college. And I think a lot of people, they don't lose sight of that, but they probably forget, temporarily, and they allow their emotions to dictate where they go and the decisions that they make. So it's just things like that to take consideration, especially for these young players. So I wouldn't be surprised if next year's recruiting process and the talent pool, as far as the portal is concerned, will be much more forgiving for the Gators. For those who are listening for the Gators, for those who are listening for the Noles, guys, it's very simple. You guys have a loaded team, one of the most loaded teams coming back for 2023. Period. The end. They did not have as many players leaving the portal. I don't even think it was double-digit players left to the portal. And with that being said, there's going to be some guys, of course, who are going to take their season and the end of the 9-3 season that you guys had, winning the ball game, and go straight to the NFL because they're a senior, they're a junior, they're ready to move on. But for the most part, I think it's the majority of the stars. I think 80% of the stars for the Noles are returning for next year, and most of them are going to be seniors. All right, seniors and juniors, huge. Congratulations, Noles. You guys are going to be set up to be looking nice. You guys might be able to knock off Clemson for the top spot in the ACC and return back to playoff glory, but you guys were, just under a decade ago. So, or at about a decade ago, I should say, because it's about, 2012, 2013. Florida State won that national championship against Auburn. That was Auburn's year. For those who didn't watch college football that year, I invite you guys to go look at the highlights from what took place in that season, because I personally guarantee you that that should have been Auburn's year. Florida State, they had an anomaly at quarterback that nobody was ready for, and Jameis Winston. That's what happened. So, Napier's building his staff, and he's basically going with quality over quantity. All right. So for those who don't know what that means, I'm pretty sure everybody does, but for those who don't know what that means, he's looking for the 4 and 5 stars. He doesn't care about the 2 and 3 stars. Okay. Yes, everybody deserves a chance to play football. And yes, he's going to give the people who deserve a chance to play football. He's here to do something Dan Mullen wasn't here to do. Dan Mullen was the type of coach where he was looking for a lot of people who could fit into his scheme. All right. Think about what I said there. A lot of players who could fit into his scheme. Dan Mullen is looking for players to be his scheme. To do, not act it out, or not to just kind of fill the position and run something similar to what the starters run. No, he's looking for players who are going to get the plays down, who are going to execute properly, and who are going to create. All right, period. The end. We saw that what he did with the players that he brought in, O'Cyrus Torrence and Johnson. Okay, we saw they were huge for us. We need more of that, and that's what he's doing this offseason. So my faith is in Billy. I can't wait to see what he's able to do. I can't wait to see for the inaugural blue and orange game, which is played every year in the spring. It's going to give us a shot to see what we have before the season starts, which is how we kind of knew Anthony Richardson was going to be a ball of fire before the season starts. Unfortunately, losing him to the draft was a sad thing. So best of luck to him. I think he's a bit too young, personally. I believe in experience, but hey, it is what it is. Good luck to him. We'll see what he's able to do. Congratulations to the Noles on retaining a lot of players. Guys, let's take one more break, and when we get back, we'll go ahead and wrap everything up with the Bolts and the Magic. And we'll probably talk a little bit of UFC too, because we have a couple of weeks before the next. I think it's a week and a half before the next fight. I think the next fight is going to be UFC Fight Night. It's going to be January 14th, I think it is. Okay, so you guys get ready for that. Again, my name is Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports, brought to you by IE Sports Radio. Thanks for hanging with me on this afternoon. Give me about a minute. I'll be right back into you in 60 seconds, okay?
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Rose Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. They're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, everybody. Thank you guys again for keeping the station locked right here on IE Sports Radio. This is Palm Tree Sports. I am your host, Corey Pujols. And guys, now we're going to go ahead and get into some hockey and some NBA news real quick. So, for those of you who follow the Bolts have been playing good hockey this year. I can't say great hockey this year because it's been at times that they decide to play great hockey. This is not one of those times, guys. We just lost a game yesterday to the Jets. I passed through it, clicked on it, saw the score, passed it again. It was one of those. It was one of those games, okay, guys? It was one of those ones where it was kind of out of the box already, or at least by the time I turned the game on, it was out of the box, and it didn't look good. Now, with that being said, these things happen. The Jets are posting a 25-13-1 record. All right. The score was a 4-2 game, so as you can see, it was pretty much just a momentum swing. Obviously, the Jets caught fire, and they wouldn't let it go. With that being said, the next game, okay, is against the Blue Jackets. They're also sporting a 25-8 record, but with 6 ties. Okay, so as you 6 draws, you guys know how that basically goes. So those games that could have gone either way. The record could easily be 28. and 8, or it could be, like you basically get what that means. So we'll see how this game goes. Two good teams. We're sitting third place in the East. Nothing to be, yee-haw about, but nothing to be upset about either. We are on a 4-game win streak, right? Then we on a 2-game lose streak. So it's been that kind of year with the Bolts. They catch fire, they cool off, catch fire again, cool off. Not much you can do about that. I've said this before, after 3 years of going to the Stanley Cup Finals and winning 2 of them in a row, this team is tired. And when I mean tired, I don't mean like they didn't have an offseason. I mean they've been playing high-level hockey for a very long time. All right, guys, very long time. Got to give our team this flowers. But at the same time, you got to hope they can keep it up. And it's a very tall task to ask a team to go to 4 Stanley Cup Finals in a row. I mean, I still don't even know if a team has done that before. I'm pretty sure there may have been a team. I mean, wouldn't be surprised if Mario Lemieux and them did it, or Wayne Gretzky did it. Wouldn't be surprised, but I'll be honest with you, our team, the Bolts, man, they making us proud, and especially with their records, like I said, sitting third place in the East, and with, again, a respectable record, 24-13-1. A couple of those games could have been the other way, but hey, it is what it is. Let's move forward. Let's go get a win at the Blue Jackets. That would be huge for us. Try to get back in the W column, and then build from there and kick off another 4-game, 5-game win streak would be great. Exactly what we need. So that's it for the Bolts. Nothing else too major to report outside of that. Again, that game against the Blue Jackets, my bad, Blue Jets, Jesus Christ. The Blue Jackets is tomorrow 8:30, I think it is. I think it's tomorrow. It might be tomorrow 8:30. I'll have to go back on the document and see what it is, but I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow 8:30, somewhere around that time frame. So get ready for that game. Followed by the Magic, guys. So the Magic. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what the Magic are. They're sitting 13th in the East right now. Okay, they're not making any kind of noise whatsoever, but they do have a couple of wins against Boston. Some things to write home about. You get what I'm saying? They have potential. They have the ability to be a team that can threaten. The problem is there's a lot of obviously they're young, but there's a lot of little things that they're gonna have to get better at. There's a lot of little things that they're gonna have to practice to basically go against these, Milwaukee Bucks and the 76ers and freaking, the Boston Celtics. Like, eventually they're going to want to go against those teams and want to make the playoffs, right? But right now it's not the time for them right now, okay? So they've lost 4 of their last 5. The suspensions from Detroit? Was that Detroit? The Pistons game, I think it was. The suspension from that, the team still hasn't completely bounced back from. And as a result, like I said, losing 4 or 5, they're not looking that great. Next game is against the Warriors. Warriors are 20-19 right now. They're not looking all that great either. Almost at 500, which is unheard of for a Steph Curry-led team. But unfortunately, they've also been dealing with some injuries, some drama in their back end. So hopefully they can figure out their game plan. I'm fond of Golden State. I wasn't fond of them when they had KD. That's my personal preference. It is what it is. Magic can win that game. All right, they can win that game. Against Warriors are struggling. You play some good defense. You hit your shots. Don't let the Warriors not scoring 100 points is going to be weird. So I can't say keep them under 100. What I can say is outscore them. That's what I can tell you to do. That's pretty much it. Play good defense where you can, and just try to outrun your opponent. Try to outscore them. So that's going to be it for the Magic. Now, as far as UFC goes, for all those who watch UFC, there is a fight January 14th. The main event is I can't remember one of the guys. One of them is Kelvin Gastelum. So for those of you who know Kelvin Gastelum, he had that 5-round war with Israel Adesanya, where Israel had the famous quote, I'm ready to die for this, and showed it, especially in that 5th round, scoring 2 serious knockdowns on Gastelum, especially a guy with the respect and the well-rounded ability of Gastelum was huge, not just for the confidence, but propel him into a title shot and unify the titles against Robert Whittaker. Speaking of, Robert Whittaker has been listed as perhaps being the next guy to fight Alex Pineda. I don't agree with that. I think it should be Izzy Pineda a second time. But hey, you want to give it to Robert Whittaker and then Whittaker as a Adesanya, or set up a number of contenders bout between Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya? Sure, whatever. If Robert Whittaker fights Alex Pereira and Alex doesn't finish him, or if Alex doesn't finish him with that left hook, Robert Whittaker's winning that fight. All right, guys, I can't stress this enough. I watched the fight between Alex and Izzy. Izzy was piecing up Alex for the better part of those 5 rounds. And not only that, you could tell that in that 5th round, Izzy kind of just didn't go for it, that he was kind of being a little bit more attentive than he normally is. He didn't use his wrestling as he should have, in my opinion. So I do feel like if they fight a second time, that Izzy would absolutely dominate him, and I wouldn't be surprised if that took place. But more important than that, again, like I said, they're trying to eyeball Robert Whittaker against Alex Smith potentially for a title. So again, if that happens, then we could be looking at Whittaker at Adesanya 3, which would just be absolutely nuts. So with those things being said, for those who are watching UFC, there's your little bit of information as far as what's coming up on the next card. The next big pay-per-view, I'll probably cover that information next time, which will be next week, same time, same place, same show, same host, same network. So, guys, that's all the information I have for you. I know we stressed out the football side a little bit more than we needed to, but I wanted to make sure we covered a bunch of things, especially as we're heading into the playoffs right now with all these playoff implications, especially for the 3 teams centered around here in Florida. The Dolphins, the Jags, and the Buccaneers could all be making the playoffs. I don't know if that would be a first time for all 3 times, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Congratulations to all 3 of those teams, especially to those Jaguars who I think are going to go ahead and pull it off today and win the division. That's it, guys. That's all I have for you. So thank you so much for joining me this Saturday evening. Just prayers for you guys. Looking towards the future again. We're at the beginning of a new year. It's the seventh day of 2023, guys. So we still got the whole year ahead of us. A whole lot to look forward to. I'm praying for the best, not just for me, but for everybody else who's listening in and beyond us. Thank you guys again so much for joining me on this episode of Palm Tree Sports. I am your host, Corey Pujols. It has been a wonderful, wonderful evening. You guys take care. I'll see you next time. Same place, same time. Peace.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Locke.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.